6:30, and we've got a packed agenda, okay? And then at the end of the program, we're gonna have an exit poll if you would like to participate. Phyllis, where's Phyllis? Phyllis is gonna have a sheet, and you can stop by her and just tell her if you were voting. No questions. Okay. All right, let's get this party started, folks. Question number 1. Question number 1. What is your understanding of the Local Government Act of 1975, also known as the Home Rule?
So we all know that local government is probably the most important government, whether it be state and local. The Home Rule Act of 1995 really came about to give cities and counties the ability to govern themselves. And prior to that, if I recall correctly from history classes, it was pretty much ran by state senators and representatives, or at least they had the majority of the Senate. And in South Carolina, I believe it was, don't quote me on the date, but I think it was 1993, where the South Carolina Supreme Court, there was a court case that involved Hilton Head Island, or the city of Hilton Head, where they wanted to tax folks, and a gentleman took them to court on it, and the South Carolina Supreme Court said, no, actually, that's what the rule says, is you can have taxes. So that's why today, counties and cities are able to tax. In addition, it also made it easier for the counties and cities to annex property for themselves to be able to govern the role. But that's my understanding of the Home Rule Act.
What Troy said, that's about what I know about the Home Rule, and just like he said, the city governments annexing other properties. I mean, we that happen here now. We annexed Bonnie Gray Golf Course to Malden City did to put in a subdivision. So that is part of that ruling, which is catch up with the times. I mean, this is a rule that's since 1975. I mean, you know, it's things have changed since then. Our community has changed since then. In 1975, 45 was a 2-lane road.
You guys remember me, I don't use microphones. Power in the state. And they wanted to relinquish that power to counties and municipalities, allow them to best understand the local needs, is to give power to the county or to the city. And so in 1975, they enacted that. Many people today do not understand what the Home Rule Act is. It gives the power for county council to pass millage rates onto us for population growth, and that's the only reason. As Alan said, there does need to be some, touch up to that rule. Basically, in my generation, as a conservative, we want our voice heard in November. Any kind of tax increase in November coming up. So we are moving in the right direction, but the Home Rule gives us local municipalities the ability to govern ourselves without Columbia interference.
And I'll just say I agree with a lot of what's been said here. When it was first enacted in 1973, there was a lot. Wasn't local representation, and you weren't necessarily voting for your local county council to be able to do the taxation or zoning. While I think from what I understand, that came about because of growth, that a lot of our areas in South Carolina were changing very rapidly. You know, Columbia and Charleston and here in Greenville, we're seeing growth. And they felt like, and I agree, that local representation to tackle these issues were important. And I think with the expanded growth that we continually see, I think that we need to be closer to the citizens. The decision makers need to be closer to the citizens to make those valuable and really important decisions. A lot of the growth that we've seen and the pain that we've seen around zoning, one thing.
So I believe the rule itself has been discussed fairly thoroughly and fairly accurately as far as what it is and what it does. The one provision that's being discussed and in the midst of decision in Greenville right now is whether or not home rule is still subject to constitutional scrutiny. And that is where if these local bodies can take it. Since I'm good, you don't have to tell me what time.
My job.
I don't think. I think I'm done.
I just want to say you guys are so nice to me because I've already messed up and nobody said anything. What didn't I do? The most important thing.
You didn't tell us his name.
Who are they? Who are they? Can y'all tell us who you are?
How long do I have?
I mean, I figured I'd ask, right? So guys, my name is Troy Prosser. I decided to run this year. I was probably one of the last people to actually make the decision to run. But it wasn't without a lot of thought. And last year, I spoke with Representative Trantham. She said she may or may not run. And I said, run in this race. Because it's so important to build on the foundation that she's built. We should be serving each and every one of you. I've literally been serving since the age of 15. I became an EMT at 15 years old. Yep, 15. I became a court-appointed special advocate for children and families that were in the most dire situations. Most recently, I was a Canebrake Fire Commissioner serving our community. That really helped, at least the Fork Shoals, the Canebrake Fire District, to bring it to somewhat modern times. Still some work to be done. But know this, I am here to serve you, to listen to you, and to be your advocate at the State House. I'm Troy Prosser.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alan Killett, and yes, I'm one of those Killets from that Killett clan down here that everybody knows. So I'm a third-generation farmer and businessman. My business that I work for is a mile down the road down here. Always been in District 28. I've been involved in Farm Bureau for a long time. I was a board member for a while. I was elected to get into government, and I just wanted to make a change and make some common sense policy. I came where I thought I wanted to be a representative of the people, and that was this time right here. Thank you.
Y'all have quite a record. Ever since I've been old enough to understand politics and basically to read, I followed state and government. I was a nerd in school, you know. You asked me what year the president was, you know, in his term, I knew. My name's Daniel Rumpfelt. I think I've met most of you guys at your home, or I've left something, you know. But I believe that by the end of the night, you're going to see I'm the best choice, because a lot of these candidates don't understand from the top of the district down to the bottom. It's so diverse with issues that we need to address, you know. And people ask me why am I running and stuff every day, and I look at them, I said, really, I just need a break from my 3 kids and my wife, you know. And I think I might handle a few politicians in Columbia, but no, it's just a joke. But the reason I do this is because I have 3 kids, and I don't want them growing up in the entitled world of the state. And I believe that what Ms. Trantham has done so far is just the foundation of where we could go. And I want to continue that foundation, building it up to where it's something that my kids could be proud of, with jobs, with low inflation, bring the inflation down, and I hope I can win you over tonight.
30.
all want to thank Angie and everyone that helped organize this event. But the biggest thank you is to all of you that came out here and took your precious time to hear more about what we are about. And my name is Carrie Smith, and I have lived in the district for 25 years, and I've been married to the love of my life for 40 years. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and so this is very important to me. But running for office was never a bucket list item for me. But I've always been a servant, and my community has always been important. I am the South Carolina Regional President for Self-Help Credit Union, and I have worked in credit unions for 37 years, working on economic development, not only in the state of South Carolina, but across the United States and in 6 different countries. And in that work, I have worked across board tables. I have worked with stakeholders to figure out and develop innovative ways to meet people's needs around education, infrastructure, energy, and also helping families to thrive. And that's the experience I want to take to the State House, because I believe that South Carolina
to Columbia. Accountability and responsibility are 2 words that have been lost in our culture today. So many folks want to blame somebody else or want to find someone else to put their problems off on or to accuse. For instance, when that $1.8 billion was found, what happened? Everybody started pointing at each other. It was his fault, it was his fault, it was their fault. Nobody had an answer. We need answers. We need solutions. We need people who are willing to fight. I'm a fighter. I'm not one who's planning to go down there and make friends and lobbyists. There are candidates and representatives all across the state who plan to do that. That's not who I am. I plan to go down there and represent you, represent the values that you hold dear, represent the things that you all have held dear for years here in District 28, and that you all hold dear. My commitment to you is to be absolutely, unapologetically the most conservative option up here tonight. Thank you for being here.
So, now I can get So question number 2 is a follow-up to question 1. So hopefully y'all remember what they said on question number 1 so they can answer question number 2. So we're going to start with Alan. And the question is, if you're elected, do you intend to honor the provision?
I'd like to look into those changes at the state level, if that's possible. If we can get enough people to agree on that, it's a miracle. But, you know, like I said, things change, communities change. I've been here for 50 years. I have seen this place change over and over and over. And with change, we need to adapt to that. Thank you.
Provisions, and not only that, the General Assembly also has a job for local bills, and some things the county cannot pass, the local General Assembly has to bring up. And one thing that I will not do is make our school district, Republican or Democrat, basically a partisan office. I have noticed, especially Lexington County and maybe Jasper, a push to get partisan politics involved in our education system. I will tell you now, I do not believe partisan politics are supposed to be in our education system. And as a representative of the General Assembly, I will not even bring a bill like that to the House floor. So absolutely, I follow what's in the provision right now.
And I will absolutely support and follow the home rule. I believe that while there may be some strengthening or perhaps a regional approach or something along those lines, but with the growth that's happening in Greenville, I think that we need to make sure that it is handled locally. And I, local council needs to be able to help support what they need done at the state level. But for us, I believe that Greenville County should have the power to make those decisions for the county, and that the state should support that through our delegation.
Yeah, I support home rule without any problem. That's unruling the ability to govern themselves. So
100% support it. Look, beyond supporting it, I would support the counties and the cities as well. As I've said, in other areas that I don't even know who my state rep is. That's disheartening. State representatives need to be present, whether it's a county government, city governments, or with the voters. I would 100% support counties and cities maintaining their ability to rule themselves, as the South Carolina Supreme Court gave them, right? To my point, there's means in there to keep them in check. There's ways to keep them in check through lawsuits because of the stipulations that are set with counties and cities and the ways that they can govern themselves. Those are the ways that we can make sure that things aren't getting out of control. But look, we don't want the federal government telling the states what to do. Why should the state be able to tell a town or a county how they can rule themselves? That's why local politics is so important.
Can I have a rebuttal? Can I have something? So I want you all to remember tonight of what we all said. We all agreed to follow the provision to stay out of local politics. We all agreed, but that didn't happen 2 years ago. You can all look it up about a lawsuit that's been filed on the Greenville County. Just look it up. Now, we all agree that we'll stay out of city politics, but some of us did not. Some of the members in the Greenville County delegation from Columbia did not stay out of what the law clearly says. So look it up.
Let's be clear. If something has gone awry, again, there's provisions to file lawsuits. As a representative, we have to do what you all want us to do. And I think in the case that Daniel was talking about, there was a lot of uproar. That's why the lawsuit was filed. There were some things that happened at the county that was questionable. I don't know the answers of right or wrong with it, but that's the reason that lawsuit was filed. And those are the checks and balances that we have to keep in place so that we're not overrun with a tax burden and things are done the way they're supposed to be done in our government.
Okay, question number 3. There was a bill killed in committee regarding insurance coverage for survivors of public safety officers killed in the line of duty. What specifically would you do, if anything, regarding this topic?
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was Representative Trantham's bill that got pulled out. And I spoke to a few fire chiefs that's really concerned about that. And I'm definitely for it. I support it. But unfortunately, as Ms. Trantham has found out, that relationships matter in politics, especially in Columbia. Unfortunately, at the disposal of us. You need to build good relationships with people that's been there for decades. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do in this room to stop that. They're representatives of their respective districts. But you also got to build relationships to get that legislation passed. And unfortunately, we're back at step 1 with this. But I'm 100% supported. It was a good bill that Ms. Trantham wrote, and I will definitely support that. Forward.
Say that I was disappointed and really saddened that we are not taking care of families of our fire bill when things like last week. This state were the biggest last week on several bills that happened. And that upsets me, that people are willing to, take their ball and go home and not stay in it and to fight for the people that are suffering every day and the families of these firefighters or law enforcement that have had to endure what they've endured. Because that failed, that's wrong. And that was short-sighted because that failed, that's wrong. And that was short-sighted on folks that didn't get that done. And just like the bills, folks that didn't get that done. And just like the bills last week that didn't get done because of fighting and not treating people in a respectful way.
Let's make no mistake, that bill got held up by the Rhino Establishment Uniparty crew in Columbia.
Yes.
That's who held that bill up, okay? It's not because of relationships or anything else. It's because there's a crew down there that thinks they're in charge and thinks that this should always be their way. And if you don't want to play ball, if you don't want to do what they tell you to do, then nothing that you put through, nothing that you put forward is going to go forward. They're going to kill it every time, all right? That's what happened. Let's not make any mistakes about that. And the idea that we need to go down there and get along to go along in order to get something through. Let me ask you this. If I was to make everybody brownies in here tonight, if I made you brownies, if I brought brownies in here and everybody was eating them and you were all saying, man, these brownies are great. And then I told you that those brownies had 10% dog food in them, what would you say? You would be mad, right? And so at what point am I as a legislator supposed to go down there and jeopardize or compromise on the things that you guys have sent me down there to stand for? Am I supposed to compromise on 5% of it, 10% of it, 20% of it? At what point are the things that you sent me down there to stand for supposed to be okay for me to stomach in order for me to say that I got along so that we could get something? No, you're down there to get things, the good things through. And so this idea that every bill has to have something else with it, that there has to be pork and there has to be attachment, is crazy. Let's start passing bills that are saying exactly who we're standing up for.
That's all great, but this bill's dead. It died. The thing is, we've got to go down there with a new plan and a new bill. Representative Trantham, thank you for putting that forward. I hate that it didn't go through. And the reason that I hate that it didn't go through is my son is a firefighter in Pelham-Batesville Fire Department. My son is married and they're about to have a child any day this week. Something happens to him in the line of duty. By the end of the month, his insurance coverage is gone. Just like you were to leave a job, your insurance coverage is gone. But this young man would have sacrificed his life for us. The family sacrifices every single day that he could leave. A spouse is covered with insurance until the time he or she remarries. I would also propose that if they have children, that they would have coverage until they age out of insurance. Today it's 26 years old. Listen, folks, we have a $1.8 billion chunk of money, but isn't that what we should do to help those people that sacrifice so much for all of us?
Yeah, I agree with Troy. That bill, great job, Ms. Trenton. Why it didn't go through, past that. And firefighters, man, law enforcement, I mean, they're the kings. And thank God for South Florida first responders. I'm talking about, I'm on the phone, they're there, and why can't we be there in their time of need? Why can't we return the favor? And like Troy said, that should go through. We may need to revisit that, bring it back up again until they're tired of hearing it. Keep bringing it up until we get some results. And, we can work on relationships or whatever, or take a hard line on it, but that is one bill that should have passed unanimously with no question, because those folks serve us when we need them the most. That's my thoughts on that bill. Thank you.
So what I would like to see is a nation of how do we better serve, because if we can make sure that youth that have offended, that we can rehabilitate on the right path to be productive members of society, that I feel like from what I've heard, that transporting them to Columbia is something that I believe that that the decision was necessarily wrong, because I don't know what that ultimate decision was and why they did that, bringing our youth and our families in the upstate around, you know, these offenders. And I want to make sure that get them out of that system and get them to be productive members of our society and never grace that that jail again or have to deal with the legal system from here on, you know, forward, because they're our future and we want to make sure kids stay out of the legal system.
Thank you for that. I agree. The juvenile age is the best time for rehabilitation, and so we certainly have I believe a great responsibility as a society to try to do all that we can for someone who has an offense at a young age, to try to offer them counseling, rehabilitation services, whatever we can do. Taking them as far away as possible from family may not be the best solution. I know that judicial reform of all kind has been on the table. I don't have a real great answer as to why this happened either. I'm not sure. I would imagine it's got to do with budget as much as anything. And let's just be honest, accountability, responsibility, and the budget would probably help us find enough funds to be able to house some juvenile facilities all over the state rather than just having to have one main one in Columbia. So I believe we're back to a situation where the budget has so many things in it that are not core government functions, whereas safety and protection of the people is a core government function, right? And so I believe that it would be great for us to find the money to be able to use for a core government function such as this, rather than using it on all of everybody's core projects and pet projects and so forth, and not being able to help rehabilitate and take care of folks and make society a safer place in the future.
So the facility closed, I think it was in 2021 maybe, or 2022. But the reason that the facility closed was, as a small business owner, a lot of what we're all facing, staffing. And really is what it boiled down to, was staffing shortages, so they decided to take the staffing and move them to the big boy jail. Why do I know all this? Because we had a young man in our neighborhood that was kicking the snot out of his father. Sheriff's Department came, he got into a tussle with the sheriff deputies. They brought out a K-9 unit, he laid down, smart kid. He was in a cruiser for about an hour. They took him out, took his handcuffs off, and gave him back to his folks. I said, what in the world are we doing? The problem is that we don't have a juvenile facility here. So the courts are less likely to send somebody to Columbia. It messes with the schools because it changes their whole suspension and expulsion guidelines, because that kind of can flow underneath DJJ. But more importantly, when you send them all the way to Columbia, they might have the resources there, but what happens when they get home? All that changes. And we all know for kids, if you change everything right away, it's disruptive. That's why we need to have a system here. We need to have a system set up throughout the state, but we definitely need a system here so we can use our resources properly that really, really supports these young men and women to keep them out of jail later on in life and to make them productive members of our society.
Yeah, I believe the main location is in Columbia. That's like Troy said, the big boy jail. I believe there is another one in Union County, and I think the other one is in Orangeburg or in that area. And the reason I know this is my company does business with them, and I can guarantee you it was because of staffing. The one in Union is understaffed. You know, and kids, they do stupid stuff. Sometimes they do really stupid stuff. And to get them back to where they need to be, I think maybe not having them all in a big jail in Columbia, maybe setting up some smaller units where they can get some more localized care. It's just like in our classrooms. You know, you got a big classroom with 60 kids. Tragedy for some of these kids that make a one-time mistake. I think you're not getting in a lot of other bad kids that can put their ideas in their heads. You know, get these kids straight, but get them some more localized rehabilitation. I think that's the key.
So I'm not quite sure on the data that Alan and Troy gave us. I'm not familiar with the reasons why the facility closed. But it just, my opinion, based on what I've just heard today, is probably consolidation, probably headcount issues. And most of these ideas up here sound like a tax increase to me. Because where is the money going to come from? I know Mr. Hubbard said, oh, we'll find money somewhere. That seems to be an excuse for everything, that we'll find money somewhere. You know, Ms. Trantham knows that every year, this past 4 or 5 years, our surplus has been going down at least $1 billion. I think it's at 1.6 billion right now. That's it of the surplus. Most of it, I believe, goes to a rainy day fund. But to begin putting satellite offices in every county, Greenville, I think the question was putting one in Greenville. Why would Spartanburg? They said, well, Greenville's got one, we want one, or Cherokee County, or Oconee. Everyone is going to eventually want their own system. Consolidated to send our GVs down to Columbia, pay for more resources up here, but we have the church community up here that can completely support this. If they
I didn't say anything about finding money, and I didn't say anything about an increase in taxes. What I said is we need to take care of the budget, fixes that we need to be paying for in the first place. I do want to make sure that that's corrected. Also, Daniel didn't have a problem with increase, but at any rate, I didn't say anything about increasing taxes, and I didn't say anything about finding money. I said that.
So being responsible, what would you cut exactly? I mean, of a population of over 4 to 6 million people in the state, what exactly would you cut? I mean, I look over the budget too, and the Habitat for Humanity, Ms. Trantham opposed it. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Habitat for Humanity not only helps veterans repair their home, it also builds homes for them and for the people that can't afford housing because of the Biden administration's inflation. So why can't I pay taxes, help somebody that that has dedicated their life to this country, you know? You want to go on about cutting stuff from the budget, but what do you want to cut? Who do you want to, you know, you have Arts Commission, for example, we'll just bring that up. You know, why not go to the committee and tell them your issues instead of ambushing them on the House floor, you know? So, I think that's my time, but.
Yeah, and I don't want to really rebut you, Daniel, on that, but, you know, I agree Habitat for Humanity is important. But is this any less important?
Right.
Is your child any less important?
Right.
You know, it's like I say, not all these kids are axe murderers. Some of them made mistakes, and they just need that little push to get them in the right direction.
That foundation of resources for these kids. Yes, it's going to cost money. Yes, it's going to take a lot of hard work to find the money. But are the kids, are the future of our area important or not?
South Carolina is one of 2 states where the legislator.
It probably won't go over very well because I'll tell you that South Carolina and Virginia are the only 2 states that their General Assembly has the most power. It is hard to ask somebody to give up power. And I fully support both states, even our neighbor state, Georgia, votes for their
Model, because it has been tried and true, and it does provide a way for the legislature to have some say in that appointment, but it does take it away, and that judge is no longer beholden to a person or an entity that that could be corrupted. And that is my biggest concern.
Funds and campaign like we have, then their use of time is not efficient as I would prefer it to be. That's the only point I'm making there. So I don't have a beef with your system. I think we definitely have a system. I'm just pointing out an issue that I would have.
Okay, we're at our final question before we go into our questions on the note cards, and if anybody still wants to write a question.
Look, recidivism, I think we kind of, look, there's gotta be, I mean, we've got to get to tort reform bill. But here's the thing. We also need to make sure that these criminals have the resources in front of them to change their life. And I was thinking about this not too long ago because I was looking up something and I saw recidivism. And like, what is, oh yeah, that's that fancy word, but it means you're a criminal over and over and over again. But you know what? We're all sinners over and over and over again. And God forgives us. But God says, shed that old way and take on a new way. And we use church and our support systems to do that. So in order to really knock recidivism down in our state, we need to make sure that we have the resources available to the folks to do it. But I will say, looking up recidivism, South Carolina, actually, the numbers aren't so bad. I mean, 15 years ago, I think it used to be something like 44%. Almost half of the inmates would end up back in. Today, I believe the number is somewhere around 20%. We're making good strides. Now we
30.
Well, I agree with a lot of what's been said. Two nonprofits that help folks
Be able to enjoy the freedoms, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The founding documents of this country, those documents are very important. When we read those documents were written out of a spirit of conservatism. And so I appreciate the ones who said constitutional and Declaration of Independence. Those things are very important. If we want to be conservatives, we need to hold those documents dear. And we need to make sure that we do everything we can to support the laws, the ideas, and the principles that are within those documents. And we apply those to our lives and to the state of our government, federal, state, and local, in each and everything that we do. I plan, if elected, to go and represent you, the special interests, and the lobbyists. Thank you.
I'm a conservative because I don't want to be called a Republican. There's too many folks that call themselves Republicans that don't have a clue what being conservative is about. To me, conservative is a step above just being a Republican. To me, being a conservative means you're a man of your word. To me, conservative means that you have values. That's why you hear conservative values. It used to just be values, but that's why you hear conservative values. To me, a conservative appreciates our founding fathers' papers, all the way back to the Federalist Papers, but to me, a conservative, first and foremost, follows the rules that were given to us by our Lord Jesus. That's why I'm a conservative.
So, a few questions ago, we were asked about the juvie system, and and I stood here and said it was probably primarily because it was consolidated. Most up here wanted to expand that to across the state. That sounds like bigger government. That sounds like a government growth to me. And we just stood here and said that we're for smaller government. We've already consolidated our juvie system, and now we want to expand it. And I have heard, you don't want to be called Republican, but you are on the Republican primary. And I understand that you want to be conservative, and there's nothing wrong with it. Become more than just Republican or conservative. You begin getting into a different type of party. you know, libertarian. A lot of us here share libertarian views. But we also got to understand we're Republicans too. If we get things done with Republican leadership,
Time.
you know, thank you.
You have to give society the resources. And if you want to call putting a juvenile justice system back in Greenville County that was here wrong, I don't get it. Because you're going to send kids all the way to Columbia. So instead, you're going to spend all that money down in Columbia and not have it here locally where the kids can actually get.
Republicans were running in a Republican, primary. But are we as Republicans, because of the actions tearing ourselves apart, who wins in that? Democrats win in that. So as
Relationships, and I will get to that hopefully if we have a question.
So yes, I know how it works. I have been doing this and work with a coalition across the state made up of nonprofits, individuals, and the faith community in particular to get that legislation changed. And I'll continue to work whether I'm elected or not on that issue in particular, because it's harming our families and especially our elderly.
Time.
I don't have any experience with lobbyists or special interests or any programs in Columbia. I have had experience with the Greenville Baptist Association and specifically advancing legislation that would be favorable to the faith community. And so, for instance, the Save Women's Sports Bill, when it was up, we certainly did everything we could to communicate and to help spread the word and garner support for that bill here in the upstate. And so that's the experience that I've had from a legislative standpoint, is just from a ministerial role. I have, since January, since announcing, had extensive, as I'm sure most of you have, experience with fellow legislators and consultants and so forth, and tried to read every bill we can read and learn everything we can learn about anything that would impact certainly District 28, but also the state. So as far as me being able to say, hey, I've got this great legislative experience to build on, I don't have that, but I do have been learning as much as possible and look forward to being able to go down there and represent each one of you in representing your values and the things that you hold dear.
So like everybody else here, I do not have experience working in the state legislature. What I do have experience in, though, is working for my community. I've been doing that, like I said, from the beginning, since I was 15 years old. And I'll continue to do it day in and day out. I'm gonna work for you guys. And I'm gonna bet that most legislators, that getting elected, had no experience. Representative Trentham, do you have any experience?
Not a bit.
Not a bit. But I have the heart of a servant, and I'm here to serve each and every one of you. That's why I'm asking you to vote for me on June 11th.
Yeah, I have no experience in legislature. I do have some friends that are house reps, and a lot of times when there's an ag issue that comes up, I'll get a phone call.
Next question, start with you. What do you?
Well, first of all, I believe we have enough money to take care of our roads.
Chris, even beyond accountability and responsibility, I think we need transparency. Yeah. I think with transparency, then accountability and responsibility is going to come.
Out my CEO's name, put my name in it. It's an absolute lie. And what I will tell you is that I've never met. I have no idea who that man is. But what
We wanted to stay on our schedule, and we're a little bit off now. So we have 6 minutes and really need 10. So you can say what you need to say in less than than 2 minutes each, I'd love it, but take your 2 minutes if you need to. Okay, who went last?
I think it was my turn.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to come out here with us tonight. This was a good crowd. Appreciate it, and also a great, polite crowd. Thank you for your attentiveness, and just for being here. Thanks to the folks up here that are for the most part running clean campaign. We are, and just tell you who we are and give you the opportunity to choose one of us to represent you come June 11th. That's who we are, and that's who we need to be. And so I would be honored to have your vote.
I wasn't picked, I wasn't recruited. Sorry, Chris, I didn't have to tell anybody no and think about it. I knew in my heart right away that I wanted to run, to serve our community, to make sure that we
To make an impact on the community. That's why I got into politics. Oh, you're a politician. I said, no, don't call me that. I don't want you to call me a politician. I just want to be your representative. That's all I want to be, is your representative. And I think it needs to be nothing more than that. And don't read anything else into it other than that. That's the job title. So I humbly ask for your vote on June 11th. I'm the common guy. Please give me your vote.
Here and back is from you all. Now, my representative going down to Columbia that's effective and not ineffective, I care about that. And as I mentioned earlier, I write for a living, and I write pretty good. So I'm used to attacks, and I don't engage. I believe I'm the best candidate up here with the details. I don't have a past that has haunted me. I don't have people talking behind my back, running as friends that help me. Because
Heard that you've seen 5 different people with 5 different backgrounds and 5 different perspectives. My focus has always been on economic development, and the reason for legislation that was done in
Candidate for office came in after we started. Mike Fortner, would you stand up, please, sir? Thank you for being here tonight, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank all of Star again, thank you, and the Ruetan Club for allowing us to meet here. Ann Payton, thank you for having a meeting here Thursday night, so we don't have to put all the chairs up tonight.
I'll come back Thursday night and listen to Durant.
Yeah, there is going to be a great program here Thursday night about the history of what?
The 96th district.
Trying to be a judge and run serve you. But thank you all very much for coming. Angie is. And also